The Yoke has officially hit the market. There was a lot of speculation there for the months leading up to the Plaid Model S launch that maybe it wasn't completely legal and Tesla was going to go forward with this steering wheel that was hidden within their website code. And for a while there was talk of it actually being optional, that you'd be able to opt for a normal steering wheel, but as far as we can see thus far, it basically appears that all refreshed Model S's and X's are going to come with the Yoke. And they definitely have some people concerned, especially as now videos have been surfacing of what it looks like to complete three-point turns and more intricate use of the Yoke and how complicated that can be, and it's definitely a bit of a learning curve. But if you were able to catch Tesla Raj's video of a recent Plaid Model S owner doing lots of turns with it, he mentioned that at first it was definitely weird and bizarre and he wasn't used to it, but after a couple days of driving it around, he's gotten more comfortable with it and he's a bit more accustomed to just having to pivot from the palm. And I'm sure, like many things Tesla has introduced, it's going to be a little bit off-putting, and the most common phrase I've seen dropped around the internet so far is, "This is a solution looking for a problem." And I certainly see that viewpoint because the Yoke functionally doesn't actually add much. It's not fixing any problem. It is purely an aesthetic choice that I see a lot of people seem to think looks cool, or a lot of people think it looks very futuristic or modern. And of course it improves visibility for the driver display, which is the only argument that is somewhat close to a functional benefit. But overall, I agree. It's mainly putting form over function, and that, of course, rubs a lot of people the wrong way, but I personally think there's so much more that could be done with the Yoke in time, and I'm definitely not alone, because Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut, was suggesting with Elon Musk that if there was a way for the steering yoke to have a tighter turning radius when you're traveling at low speeds, and to be able to have a wider turning radius when you're traveling at high speeds, because, as I've seen many people mention, having a steering yoke and making it so light and easy to maintain around is actually a bit of an improvement when you're traveling at high speed, which the Plaid Model S is obviously designed to go at high speeds, but it obviously becomes a bigger problem when you're not traveling at high speeds and you're just trying to get out of a parking lot or do something basic. And Elon Musk responded to this tweet saying that he's very happy with the Yoke and he's gotten comfortable with it, and that tweet, in my opinion, kind of solidifies that Tesla is pretty confident that the Yoke is the future, at least, and they're going to keep it around in the meantime. And maybe if Tesla gets enough backlash, they'd be willing to make the steering yoke optional and let you buy just a regular full steering wheel. But Elon seems pretty set in his ways so far, and that will most likely mean that vehicles like the Tesla Cybertruck and the Tesla Roadster end up also incorporating a yoke, as I believe NHTSA, not being super clear on it, is allowing deliveries to take place, and they don't seem to be giving Tesla any cease and desist notices, so I'm guessing it is legal. That kind of puts that whole discussion to rest, and it's definitely not looking good if you're not a fan of the Yoke moving forward because you think it's impractical. And I know a lot of people personally that would love a full steering wheel on the Cybertruck because it's the type of vehicle that you're going to be attaching trailers to and backing up in complicated areas, and it's a larger vehicle and you want all the control you can get, especially in those tighter turning environments. So I hope Tesla ends up being okay with the option moving forward and figuring out whether people would like a steering wheel or a steering yoke by default. I got nothing against options if they want to go that route, but within Elon's tweet, he did talk about how a steer-by-wire system would have to go in place in order for this change to happen. In other words, there's not really any software Tesla could roll out to the Plaid Model S to suddenly make the turning radius tighter with the steering yoke under certain speeds, because right now, the mechanical turning in Model S's is obviously a physical thing. That's not something that they can just send out some code and say, turn a little bit harder now. They would have to completely gut the internals and move into a drive-by-wire system, which involves not actually having a physical pipe that, controls which way the wheels turn. In case you were wondering, that's why when you're playing video games or racing games on your Tesla and you move the steering yoke or wheel around, it has to turn the tires on the ground as well. There's no way around that. It's a mechanical attachment. Or if you're using autopilot or smart summon or something, even though there's no person in the vehicle, the steering wheel still has to turn and move around because it is attached to the wheels on the car. If, however, Tesla in the future was willing to go with a steer-by-wire system, which Elon Musk alluded to, although he did say a few years in the future. So if he's saying FSD beta is 2 weeks away and the steer-by-wire is 2 years away, it could be a long time. But if they were able to redesign the turning mechanism within inside the vehicle, that would allow you to play games with the steering yoke or wheel, and it doesn't have to rub your tires along the asphalt as you're playing them. Or when you're using autopilot or full self-driving, if that comes comes out in the next few years. The steering wheel itself won't actually have to physically turn. The tires can just turn independently and the yoke can just stay fixed. And the only issue I could see with that is maybe if you do want to take over in a hurry, the yoke wouldn't be in the exact right position you want the vehicle to turn in. But if the turning is all being done digitally, then you could probably apply a certain amount of resistance to the steering yoke or wheel in the event that you can't turn anymore and you're just now overtaking the vehicle. I'm sure this would bring a lot of complexities and there's a lot of safety concerns that would come around, and Tesla would want to have a lot more redundancy with this system, and maybe that's why they're not ready for it yet. But either way, that's how I could see the steering yoke becoming a lot more practical if you didn't have to turn it over and over again every time you wanted to make a harsh turn, and instead you could get your full maximum turning radius just by tilting it over a little bit, and then when you're on the freeway you can have a lot more precision with how you want to turn and change lanes, take exits, and that type of thing. For my own personal use, I actually stopped grabbing the top part of my steering wheel in my car for about a month just to see if I could get used to it, and I did pretty quickly. I'm the type of person that would be okay with this sort of compromise because after watching videos of people with the Plaid Model S and after a few days they get comfortable with it, they don't hit the capacitive buttons accidentally, which you probably will on your first try. And it does take a little bit of a learning curve, but that's not new to the Tesla world. Their door handles have always been weirder than people are used to, or having your information and speedometer to the side instead of having it behind the steering wheel. There's all kinds of learning curves that come along with switching to an electric car anyway, so getting used to the steering yoke is something I think I could see myself getting comfortable with and also being able to enjoy that clean, ultra minimal interior, and I totally respect anyone who doesn't really care about the look of the yoke and just wants it to be practical. That makes sense too, but I admire Tesla for trying things that are different and unique and see how they can bring their own creativity to the subject and figure out how to make a better driving experience if possible. And I do think the aesthetics tie into that a little bit. Maybe not in a practical standpoint, but how the vehicle feels and looks on the inside is kind of important to me. That's one of my favorite aspects of Teslas, is just how simple and minimal their interiors are, with a huge emphasis on software. And if the steering yoke allows me to feel more immersed in the software and not so distracted by the hardware, I consider that a win. But at the end of the day, I'm still for options, so I am totally fine if Tesla wanted to offer a steering wheel option for those who care about it. But in the meantime, I'm guessing that Tesla has so much crazy demand for the Model S and X, they don't care if there's a bunch of you guys out there that don't like the Model S and now you're not gonna spend 6 figures on a vehicle because it doesn't have the steering wheel you want. Yeah, they don't care. They have more demand than they know what to do with. So I think the steering yoke on the S and X is here to stay, and at this point I'm pretty confident the Cybertruck is gonna have a yoke as well, probably as the only option. And I'd love to hear how you guys feel about the yoke versus the steering wheel down in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Take care.